Hello, my name is Michael Gray, and welcome to Financial Insider Weekly. I'm your host today, and my guest is attorney David Kirsch. David has been an attorney for 32 years. Gosh, seems like only yesterday. He worked for 4.5 years with the IRS counsel's office, and he was litigating cases in the U.S. tax court and providing legal advice to the IRS about collection issues. He has also represented, so then he went into private practice. Okay, been in private practice in San Jose since 1983, and since 1985 only worked in the tax controversy area. Has represented clients before the U.S. Tax Court, the U.S. District Court, Court of Appeals, almost made it to the Supreme Court, not quite. Also represented California clients relating to sales tax issues for the California State Board of Equalization, which means sales tax matters, income tax issues for the Franchise Tax Board, and payroll tax issues for the California Employment Development Department. Today I've asked David to provide some guidance about what to do if you're audited by the IRS. When people think about tax issues, quite often they're thinking, what if I get audited? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're only going to be talking about highlights of a complex subject, so again, we want you to to consult with a qualified tax advisor about your situation. And this is just a way to get some basic information for getting started. Okay, so David, let's get started.
All right.
Let's say somebody gets a letter now. I get a letter from the IRS. Should I panic?
I get asked that question not infrequently, Michael, and the answer is if you filed an honest tax return, there's no reason to panic. Mm-hmm. If you haven't filed an honest tax return, then you should maybe be concerned. But most people file honest tax returns, and one of the functions of the IRS is just to check it and make sure it's right. Just because you put something on a tax return doesn't mean the IRS says, oh, okay. They're entitled to say, show us that it's correct.
Okay. Another thing is, when you get letters from the IRS, a lot of times they're they're really letter or correspondence type audits, aren't they?
Yes.
So
and those are frequently what we call information matching audits.
Yeah.
You get a 1099 for interest from your bank, or a W-2 from your employer, or a 1099 if you're a subcontractor. And sometimes the information that you put on your tax return doesn't match the information that's been reported to the IRS, and they're just checking to resolve that discrepancy. Mm-hmm. Very simple, benign, nothing to worry about.
Yeah. So some people don't even think of those as audits, but technically they are a type of audit, I guess.
They're more an examination as opposed to an audit or a review. It's not much difference.
Okay. Why me? Why did I get chosen for an audit?
You'll never know. There are a variety of reasons that returns get selected. Some are random. Some are based on complicated formulas the IRS has worked out and works out continually. That is, my understanding is that's as closely guarded a secret as the nuclear weapons codes.
Wow.
The tax practitioners have an idea of what can trigger an audit, but no one really knows for sure. Mm-hmm. You can be reported on by a disgruntled spouse, a former employee, a former partner, an existing partner. Mm-hmm. There's just a lot of different ways they arise, and you'll never know for sure. Mm-hmm. And to an extent, it really doesn't matter. Okay,
yeah, here it is.
That's right.
We've got to deal with it.
Right.
But some people may feel rather picked on, and maybe, but in some cases, these audits may in fact be justified. In other words, if an IRS finds adjustments and then it comes up again subsequently and so forth. I mean, they may repeatedly audit an issue, I suppose.
Sure,
Yeah.
That's a normal thing. If they examine a tax return and do find something erroneous about it, and it's the kind of issue that is likely to recur year after year. As an example, say you're self-employed and you're deducting, or you're audited, and the IRS makes a significant adjustment to travel and entertainment expense. Right. You know, it's pretty likely that you've done the same kind of thing, overstated that expense in multiple years. So it's almost an invitation to the IRS, and sure, they're going to follow that up.
Yeah. Okay. Well, now comes a really big issue for many people, because hiring somebody like you or me to help out can represent a big expense. So how do you decide whether you should get help or not?
Tough question. Well, first, what is your particular comfort level with the accuracy of your return? If you've been playing fast and loose and you were playing the audit lottery and say, well, I'll be very aggressive here and see if I get nailed, and you do, you might want to seek counsel. On the other hand, if you have a high confidence level that your return is squeaky clean or not going to have too many significant issues, and you feel comfortable handling it yourself, then there's no reason not to. You know, I tell a lot of people that there is nothing really that I can do in an audit that you can't do for yourself. But on the other hand, you can also take out your own appendix if you feel you're competent enough to do it. You don't know the intricacies of removing an appendix. Likewise, you don't speak tax in all likelihood. And there are rules of the game that most laymen really don't understand. And most laymen probably think that the IRS really isn't bound by any rules, that they can do anything they want, and that is flat wrong. There are rules, and one of my functions when I'm representing a client is to make sure the IRS plays within the bounds of those rules. And sometimes they don't, believe it or not.
Yes. I've seen it, unfortunately, you know, and again, it is a difference. Like when I go in, now what's happened is, it's like you get, you know, somebody that's coming from Germany here to the United States, they're trying to buy something at the store, and they can't communicate with the person behind the counter. But if they have a friend that's with them that happens to be an American that also speaks German, they can tell the person what they want.
Yes.
And now you got that communication, and okay, that closes that issue. And so sometimes just speaking the language, it makes a real difference.
Yes, communication is an extremely important part of the process.
Another thing that I've found helpful for some people, I think, at least, is to get some coaching, you know, in preparation for the audit. So, in other words, to help them along, you know, okay, now how are you going to document this? Maybe even have a pre-audit meeting to sort of get a feel for, you know, what sort of a condition things are really in.
Sure, for someone who's going to do it themselves, it could be money well spent to have 1 or 2 hour consultation with someone who is familiar with the procedure, the process, just so you can feel a little more comfortable going in and talking with the IRS, because it's very intimidating. Yes. For people who aren't used to doing it.